This episode of Film Riot is brought to you by Domain.com.
Today we're making this with our hands and stuff. Welcome to Film Riot, the show that takes mystery out of the effects techniques going to some of your favorite Hollywood films. I'm your host, Ryan Conley. And before we jump into the episode, a quick update for those asking about the music pack. We decided to push it back to September 18th so that we can make sure everything was 100% solid. There was a few things that weren't fully finished, so we're pushing it back to make sure everything is perfect for the release. So I know I said the 10th, but we're pushing it back that week. But in the meantime, we did release our cheaper versions of the Fight sound packs, our Indie Fight pack, which goes for $45, and our Fight Sound Effects pack Lite, which goes for $10. You can find more about those right here. We will always do that because we want to make sure that no matter what budget you're at, you can get some great sounds for your projects. But now, question. Ryan, can you make some more DIY light stuff? Yes, and the thing that we're building today is not my original idea. I've seen it used a lot, and I've wanted to build one for a long time, so today we build one. So let's build one of our own. Josh. Oh, thank you. Is that just because I did a good job?
F you!
And here's what you're going to need. A light bar fixture. I got this one on Amazon.com for $20. An outdoor extension cord, some wire nuts, screws, nuts of the same size as the screws, a combination connector, electrical tape, a baby pin wall plate, once again off Amazon, this one for $24, a screwdriver, wire strippers, and you'll also need a drill. All in all, I spent around $60, but you may have some of this stuff lying around that you can put to use like an extension cord to save you some monies. So the first thing that we're going to do is open the light bar by removing the socket caps, unscrew, then open. Inside you see we have 3 wires. Black is hot, white is neutral, and the open wire is our ground wire. But we will put these to the side for now. Next, we're going to take the extension cord, clip off the female end, and strip back the protective layer to reveal the wires inside. Again, you see we have hot, neutral, and a ground wire, which we will strip all of these back as well. Now we break out the connector hole here in the back of the fixture so that our connector will fit, secure the connector to it, and then slip our stripped end of the extension cord through, then tighten down. Next, we flip over and connect our wires together, matching hot to hot, neutral to neutral, ground to ground, and we do this with the wire nuts. Then wrap that with electrical tape to add some extra security. Now we take the baby plate and line it up where we want to drill our holes. Get those drilled, then add these extenders, which I had lying around since the plate is a little too long for the back of the fixture. Screw those in with screws and nuts, then the plate to the back of the fixture, also with screws and nuts, which I use wing nuts to make it a little bit easier on me. Then I close this whole thing back up, putting the caps back on, screwing it back nice and tight, and we have our light. And now, since we did set it up with our baby plate, we can mount it to our C-stand easy enough. However, I am wishing that I would have got the plate with a swivel mount like this one right here to position my light a lot easier, which I may upgrade to soon. Now you can toss on any bulb that you would like here, which is another reason I love lights like this. You can do regular household tungsten bulbs, CFL type bulbs, and any temp that you want from daylight to soft white, which we've talked about before in other episodes, adjusting your color temp with the bulb instead of a gel, going even more DIY. But for now, I grabbed these soft white 65 watt R30 lights. I read about others using them and I wanted to give them a go as well since people seem to favor them. They're rated at about 2700 to 2800 Kelvin, which means they're gonna be warmer than normal tungsten, which is around 3200. And you can see that we are getting a very bright light that isn't too harsh. It's not incredibly soft, but not as harsh as my 1K either. I could of course throw on a dimmer for more control as well, but as you can see here, and as I already talked about, we are getting a very warm light here, so the more we dim this, the warmer the light's going to get. So that's something to keep in mind. But now let's take a look at a few test shots we did using this DIY light bulb. Going for a very dark stylistic look, but you can see from all of these shots just how much this one light is doing. One thing that I love is how much the light wraps, since it's 8 bulbs going across the bar, so it is covering a nice area. I also took one bulb out at some point to create some separation in the light to play with how much I'm throwing on the subject and the environment. With a lot of these shots like this one here, I'm just using the one light and a light bounce from the wall next to him or a bounce card to fill in a little bit. But then with a shot like this, I'm also adding in a can light, which I also got from Home Depot with a regular tungsten bulb in it to add a nice backlight. And the bulb that I used in the can light is rated somewhere around 3200 Kelvin, which is the normal tungsten we were talking about, so you can see how much more warm the bulbs on the light bar are compared to a regular tungsten bulb. I also like the sort of stage light look you can get by throwing it in the shot itself. And here I have my Black Pro Mist filter on to bloom those highlights out. Here I've taken that filter off. It's just the bare lens. But with the filter on, I can catch the glow of the light just above the frame and add some color and depth into the shot. It's one of the reasons that I really love the Black Pro Mist filter so much, which I won't go into the filter here since we did talk about that and some DIY alternatives in this episode right here. But now we break to thank our sponsor, then talk a little bit more about this light and the lighting setup. Domain.com is a place to go if you're trying to get yourself seen on the interwebs. If you have a business, if you've got work, if you're a filmmaker and you have stuff that you want people to see, you need yourself a website. To get a website, you need a hosting plan, which Domain.com has reliable and affordable ones. They got the domain discovery service also to help you pick the right name that's good for you if the one you want is taken. And if you use coupon code FilmRiot at checkout, you get 15% off your domain name and web hosting. So when you think domain names, think Domain.com. You're just making me nervous over there, like flexing. I don't know what you're doing.
Logo.
So again, let's take a look at some of these shots like this one right here. For this, I just used that bar light we made. Then we can add in a lamp in the back for some background and then turn on the chandelier in the dining area to add just a touch of detail behind our actor, which I've talked about this before on the show. What you have in the background is just as important as what you're doing to the subject. The shots here without the background, while cool for some things, work a lot better for a narrative style when we get that background going. And if we want, we can bring in a bounce to add a little bit more to Josh's face, filling in the shadows just a little bit and adding some detail there. Even though the background behind and to the right of Josh is very dimly lit, it's adding a lot since we have some moody detail back there. And again, adding a lot of depth and contrast just by using our main light on the actor, then 2 practicals that were already existing in the space. And that just goes right along with that idea that Gordon Willis talks about. Walk into a room, flick on one light, and go from there. Which overlighting is definitely something that I have been guilty of in the past. Sometimes I like the style of it, but oftentimes simplicity really is the way to go. So again, for this shot, we have the bar light to the back left and the 2 house lights going on for our background. And here we have just the bar light just above frame with the Black Pro Mist on the camera to glow those highlights down into the frame and bounce to add a strip of light on Josh's eyes. This bounce right here, which I got for $3 at Walmart. On one side we have a regular bounce card and on the other side we have this odd pattern which throws a more harsh light in a broken way. So if I move it around, you can see that this broken pattern is reflecting onto our actor, so I can use it to bounce just a strip of light on Josh's face to emphasize his eyes a little bit. So for this shot, we're looking at a $60 DIY light and a $3 bounce card from Walmart. That's it. And then there is exposure, which is something that can make or break the film look for you and give you a very different feel to your image as well. A good example would be between these two. Just underexposing your actor a bit gives a totally different feel. Or here, as I pan the light past the actor, you can see all the changes in the feeling the different exposures on his face give you. Of course, it totally depends on what you're going for. Sometimes you're gonna wanna overexpose. Sometimes you're gonna want normal exposure, and others you're gonna wanna go under. Often I will underexpose just slightly if I'm going for a dramatic filmic look. But to jump back to the light itself, I am really liking what I'm getting out of it, including the fact that I can just change the bulbs out and have daylight balance fixture like you can see right here. So now I can use this as a nice bright key for a daylight shot like this. The only issue so far is the shadows that it creates. Because of how many bulbs there are in a row, you get multiple shadows. And the closer you are to your subject with the light, the farther apart these shadows are. But even far away from your subject, you're still getting multiples. It's just something to keep in mind when you're using a light like this. But that is it for today. Next week, I'll get into my post process for some of these shots that I showed you today. Another thing is, if you guys missed my creative live class and don't have the cash to buy it, they are rebroadcasting it for free on September 21st through September 23rd. We'll remind you of that as we get closer, of course, but you can find more about that by looking at their calendar right here. And finally, you've heard me talk about the Shot Lister app a lot, which is something that I use for scheduling and I love. Usually the app goes for about 14 bucks, but now until September 18th, they are selling it for just $1.99, and all the sales between now and the 18th go to charity, which is awesome. So if you want a great app and to help out charity in the process, go right here. It's good stuff. And of course, you can find me on the Twitters, twitter.com/Ryan_Conley. And I'll see you lovelies next week when I transport highly explosive cargo in a crappy old truck.